Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got a good one for you. The most fun commanders to play against your friends. Again, a lot of players want a lot of different things, from a game of Commander, but one thing that many players can agree on for the most part is that they want to have fun. Let's jump into it. So, first up, Xancha Sleeper Agent. Now, with this list, it's going to go through a variety of commanders that can make the game of Commander fun by changing things up in a certain way or utilizing different types of cards, and Xancha is definitely one that can do both. A 5/5 Phyrexian minion for 3 mana in Rakdos enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice, attacks each combat Fable, and can't attack its owner or planeswalkers its controller owns. Its owner controls, I should say. Pay 3, Xancha's controller loses 2 life and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability. So this is a commander that, again, changes the kind of dynamics of the game, where this is a decent threat, especially early on. You get it into play, and that opponent is forced to attack your other opponents for you with this commander. And also on top of that, players can utilize it as a fantastic draw source that happens to also just drain the life force of the commander, the player that has them. So Xancha is, again, the perfect sleeper agent for you. It changes the dynamics of the game, and it brings about spectacularly interesting and unique cards that you can utilize for the strategy. Spectacular Showdown. I just said that a couple times. There you go. That's probably what was in the mind. Spectacular Showdown is a really cool card that can help you out with this kind of a strategy. Sorcery for 2 mana in red. Put a double strike counter target creature, then go to each creature that had a double strike counter put on this way, and you can overload it for every single creature. So early on, you can make Xancha hit incredibly hard with this, but yeah, being able to kind of bring in a goad factor to this can make it so that, well, Xancha might be able to get through in combat, which can be quite nice. Of course, you'll have other ways to protect as well, but also can bring some just brawling aspect to the table where everyone is swinging left and right. Haymakers are being thrown, and not only is Xancha draining the opponent, but all the creatures in play are making things a lot tougher for life totals to keep up. So again, encouraging attacking when some commander games can kind of draw out for a while and players aren't willing to attack, and it's just like, hey, let's just turtle up and sit here. This can force things in a big way. Speaking of forcing things, Hearthstone, you can utilize a unique card like this one. Artifact for 3 mana. Activate abilities of creatures cost 1 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana and ability cost to activate to less than 1 mana. Yeah, being able to make Xancha's ability cost 2 instead of 3 can be a big difference, a massive difference. More encouraging your opponents to actually utilize it, and also for you to utilize it even more. Of course, you're going to build your deck in a way where you can get a lot of mana to be dumped into that, to, of course, drain that opponent, and then get Xancha maybe out and attached to another opponent. So, yeah, there's that kind of political dynamic aspect, too. Who gets Xancha? It can be quite fun for you. Speaking of that, again, when it comes to, again, the other side of things, we're just like, you know what? Let's just hit each other. Rite of the Raging Storm enchant for 5 mana in red. Creatures named Lightning Rager can attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, the player creates a 5/1 elemental creature token named Lightning Rager. It has trample haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature. Again, hey, you don't have any creatures out there for me to goad and force combat? I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you a creature that there is no reason basically for you not to attack. So, hey, here you go. Take it, swing anywhere but me. Lovely. Being able to essentially utilize, again, the board as a battlefield, that can be a breath of fresh air to many players, essentially, because, some commander games out there can get a bit stale sometimes when players are just sitting back, and Xancha is one that can definitely encourage some things to heat up, encourage players to get out there, to politic, to utilize their resources, and to swing. It is one that can definitely change the dynamics of the game, and this is one that I really wanted to bring up for you because, again, it can make a commander game a lot of fun in a different way. Next up, Mile the Anima. Spin the wheel is what I had to say about this one, my little note to myself. This is a commander that can bring a kind of, not chaos aspect to the game, but some variability. A 2/3 Elf Shaman for 3 mana in Naya. Pay 6 mana in total and tap the top 5 cards of your library and put a creature card power 5 or greater from among them on the battlefield. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. Basically, get big creatures out off the top. Now, of course, yeah, you can utilize a bunch of tutors that get, creatures directly on top, like Worldly Tutor, etc., etc. Sure, you can go about that approach. That's not really what I'm talking about, though, more so. More so, I'm just like, okay, yeah, grab a bunch of giant, cheap creatures is how I would do it. I mean, not cheap mana value-wise, but cheap money-wise. Throw them in the deck with this and just have fun activating, seeing what you hit, and essentially, yeah, your opponent's being surprised at what you hit as well. Just surprises you again when you're not tutoring for them. So you could hit something like Ruric Thar the Unbound, and all of a sudden, again, the dynamic of the game changes. A 6/6 Vigilance Reach Ogre Warrior for 6 mana in Gruul. Attacks each combat of Fable. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, 6 damage to that player. So your opponents do have a way to take this out, even if they don't have removal, right? If you got a big enough blocker, you can take it out because it has to keep attacking. That being said, again, it does punish your opponents who aren't building a deck like yours, where you're like, yeah, lots of creatures, yay! And they're like, oh my goodness, well, my Spellslinger deck, I'm going to be burning myself until I can get rid of that. Shriekwood Devourer, a 7/5 Tree Folk with Trample for 7 mana in green. Whenever you attack with one or more creatures on tap, to X lands Rexy Grace power among those creatures. So again, utilize big creatures to cast other big creatures. Yeah, you can just hit some big things. Again, some big things that might not see a lot of play in a lot of decks out there, because it's like, well, their mana value is high. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to get those into play miscellaneously. Let's have fun with that. Terracodon, of course, you can utilize other big creatures. Again, utilize your creatures essentially for all your different functions. There's definitely creatures for card draw. We were talking about for ramp as well. But yeah, nasty Terracodon enters the battlefield, destroyed to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put in a grave this way, its controller makes a 3/3 elephant. Again, everything is a creature. There you go. Let's take some things out. And of course, it's a 9/9. So yeah, Mildly Anima, again, can be a spin the wheel type commander where it's like, okay, you know what? It's not entirely chaos, but it is, hey, you know what? I get to utilize a bunch of big, fun, derpy creatures for the most part. I get to hit random ones, and all of a sudden, it can change the game in a big, exciting, and fun way. Next up, Help Me Out is the actual name of this one that I put in it. Lazavdimir Mastermind is one that can go about a game in a different way as well. Instead of it being you that has all the big giant creatures, it could be, hey, opponents, help me out. Lazavdimir Mastermind is a 3/3 shapeshifter with hexproof for 4 mana in Dimir. Whenever a creature card is put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may have it become a copy of that card, except its name is Lazavdimir Mastermind. It's legendary to other types, and it gains hexproof and this ability. So basically, this is a commander that says, you know what? I might not have the biggest creatures out there, but my opponents might, and they can help me out in a multitude of ways. It can take mill in a different direction, where it's not like, my goal is not to mill you out. My goal is not to have you lose all the cards in your library. My goal is to mill you ever so slightly so I hit some pretty fun things. Again, hitting miscellaneous things off the top of libraries that, again, if you're playing opponents that you've never played with before, or an opponent's deck, maybe that, again, it's your friend, but you never played against that deck, you can hit miscellaneous things you don't know you're even in the deck, and you're like, oh, well, that's a really cool creature to have hexproof, and that's my commander, essentially. Fun. So just hitting those things can be a lot of fun. It can lead to a lot of variability in games. And of course, you can utilize some massive things too, like Consuming Aberration. Star, that has power types each of whatever cards in your opponent's graveyard, so it can be a big threat as well. That being said, though, when you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards to the top of their library, to the land card, and puts those cards in their graveyards. We need a keyword for that. But anyways, basically, hey, mill till you hit a land, and all of a sudden, yeah, did you hit some creatures? Did you hit some pretty big creatures? Cool. All of a sudden, Lazav can become a most powerful creature on the board just by casting a spell. Extract from Darkness, utilize your opponent's creatures in a different way as well. Each player mills 2 cards, put a creature card from a graveyard on battlefield under your control. So basically, again, you might hit something that's juicy that you want Lazav to turn into, and you can also, well, turn those creatures to your side by reanimating it. Or how about, yeah, I mean, again, you can do some mass mill things too. Teresian Mindbreaker. Attacks if any player mills half their library, rounded up, you're bound to hit some juicy things when you swing with this. Again, even if you only get 1 swing out of it, you can actually unearth it again to do it again. You're still going to get a lot of value to essentially be like, you know what, Lazav, turn into something absolutely massive. Again, a commander like this can lead to a lot of variability and a lot of fun in your games because it changes the dynamics of the game. It changes what the expectation of, and it changes based on your opponent's decks and strategies too. Moving on, this one I am calling minigame because, yeah, Phage the Untouchable definitely changes the dynamics of the game basically entirely. Phage the Untouchable is a 4/4 avatar minion for 7 mana in mono black. Enters the battlefield. If you didn't cast it from your hand, you lose the game. Literally unplayable in Commander, right? No, not quite. Deals combat damage to a creature, so that creature can be regenerated. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Again, you are literally not allowed to essentially cast this from the command zone without having, some other way to stop you from losing the game. There are those ways, and we will talk about some of them here in a little bit. But yeah, it's basically a commander that is kind of like a mini game in and of itself. It's a really cool, really powerful effect. Again, literally, I hit you, you lose. That is the game for you. Then my game is just, okay, I need to find a way to get it out. When it's in play, get it through, and you lose. It is a mini game that your entire goal is so different from your opponents. It is hilarious. Again, they can just cast their commanders. There's no restrictions on them casting their commanders. You're like, oh, well, to actually get my commander out, I need to do this, 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 and this. I mean, one of those things could be, hey, Netherborn Altar. Artifact for 2, tap put a soul counter on it, put your commander into your hand from the command zone, then you lose 3 life for each soul counter on it. Again, other commander decks typically don't utilize this that much. I mean, it can save you commander attacks in a way, but for a good amount of life to be paid to do so if it sticks around. But for you, it's like, oh great, I can get my commander into my hand so I don't lose when I play it. Of course, this, what Command Beacon's a land that basically does that too. Torpor Orb, though, of course, is another way to go about this. Artifact for 2, creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. So again, that ETB on Phage does not make you lose the game because it does nothing. Rogue's Passage, again, a very simple, very effective land. Tap for a colorless, pay 4, tap target creature can't be blocked this turn. Again, literally just this. Once you get your commander in play, and your opponents are going to be like, please don't hit me. No. Paul over there, he's the threat. Take out Paul. And Paul's like, no. Yeah, Phage the Untouchable again. It's basically a different kind of version of a game of Commander because your goal is entirely different from your opponents. You're literally like, I need to find a way to get my commander out. Cool. Because my opponents can get their commanders out without any problems. But I can't. So that's goal number 1. Then goal number 2, swing and hit once. Yay! So yeah, you can do some weird things with this one. Next up, change things up with Pramikon Sky Rampart. Yeah, this one changes the dynamics of the game in a really fun way. Just don't do an equivalent exchange deck like I did built around it that was inspired by Full Metal Alchemist, where like you literally were just swapping things. Not stealing, swapping, but yeah, that can lead to a very long and drawn out game. Regardless, this is one that doesn't have to lead to a long and drawn-out game. It can be a very exciting game because, again, you change the game in a very dynamic way with this. A 1/5 wall with Flying and Defender for 3 mana in Jeskai. Enters the battlefield, choose left or right. Each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the chosen direction, and Planeswalkers controlled by the opponent. Basically, hey, swing left or swing right. Swing clockwise or counterclockwise. There is no other decision for you when it comes to swinging. So with that, well, you can say, hey, just at a base level, the opponent across from me cannot attack me. Lovely. Directly across me, I should say. Or diagonal from me, whatever you want to call that. And then, hey, you know what? Who's more threatening, left or right? Okay, let's pick the opposite direction so that I am not attacked by that player. And when things change, well, you can change it. Cloud Shift, very simple, very effective. Just blink spells can be like, you know what? Things have changed. Left player over here, Paul, whatever your name is. Hey, that's not nice. Anyways, Paul, yeah, is not a threat anymore. Hey, that's also not nice. Anyways, I'm going to change it so Paul can swing at me and it's completely fine. I'm sorry for anyone out there named Paul. I'm not trying to, yeah, again, like, sorry, set and Phage at you too. Anyways, yeah, basically being able to just change up the direction that the table can swing changes the entire dynamics of combat where players were like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to take that player out. It's like, wait, no, I got to turn this way. Okay, I guess I'll take that player out. And again, it changes the dynamics of things because you can have these games where players aren't willing to attack. Players are just sitting back, and maybe that can get a bit old to you. So having a deck that maybe utilizes a card like Grand Melee can be quite nice. Enchantment for 4 mana in red. All creatures attack each turn of Fable. All creatures block each turn of Fable. It is kind of like this plus Pramikon equals like Goad, but a Goad that is targeted. So again, being like, you know what? those two players over there, yeah, they're both big threats, and I would like that one to take out the other one. So let's go this direction, and let's force combat so they must attack, must block. Things get crazy, and of course you can take advantage of the player that is attacking you as well, because we'll turn to the cliffs. A card like this is incredible. A 5/4 Ogre Warrior for 5 mana in red. Whenever a creature opponent controls attacks, if you're a defending player, create a 3/3 red Ogre creature token, then unless that creature's controller pays 3. Here's the thing. That's an absurd amount of mana. They're not going to be doing that. So essentially, again, you can force combats that are beneficial to you, not just in ways that are like, hey, you know what? I want those players to take each other out, essentially, in that direction. But also like, okay, maybe the weakest player is swinging at me, or the one with the most low-to-the-ground tokens, maybe. And you're like, okay, cool, I got Kazul in play. Swing at me! Awesome, I make a bunch of 3/3s that wipe out your army. Yay! So yeah, Paramacon, you can do a lot of exciting and interesting things in combat. And that is one to change up, again, a game of Commander that sometimes can get stale because players sometimes are benefited just by sitting back and just being there. And instead, forcing combat, forcing the issue, and forcing it in the direction that you want. Next up, target acquired. Again, changing up combat in a unique way. Maybe no commander does that more so than Grothama All Devouring. Again, kind of like a combination of like Phage and Paramacon in a way where it's like changing up combat, but also it's kind of like a mini game. It's a 10/8 worm for 5 mana in green. Other creatures have, whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama All Devouring. Oh my goodness. So literally just being like, you know what? All creatures, instead of actually swinging at players or planeswalkers, it's a mini game. Swing at me! I'm the end boss. I'm a giant worm. When it leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage dealt to Grothama this turn by sources they controlled. So again, having a way to say, you know what, here's a benefit. You know, I got this giant commander in play early. You take it out, and you get to draw a bunch of cards, unless I do some fun things with it. Or maybe I'll just do fun things with it on my own. Again, allowing you to utilize cards in unique ways that otherwise wouldn't really see all that much play, like Broodhatched Nantuko. A 1/1 insect druid for 2 mana in green. You can also morph it if you want to, but you're not really trying to like sneak it out. Like in like a typical game, you'd have it like as a morph creature, like, ha ha ha, you swung at me, and when it's dealt damage, I get that many 1/1 insects. Ha ha ha. Therefore, now I got a lot. This one's more so like, no, I'm putting it into play so I can swing at my own Grothama and make 10 tokens for 2 mana. Yes, please. Stuffy Doll, another card you can utilize in a unique way with this one. 0/1 Construct for 5 mana. Enters the battlefield as a player. It's indestructible. Whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to each chosen player. You can tap it, deals 1 damage to itself. So yeah, you can just have it swing at Grothama to dish out 10 damage. Quite fun. Or Mossbridge Troll, a 5/5. It would be destroyed, regenerate it, so it's just going to stick around forever. Troll for 7 mana in green. Tap any number of untapped creature you control other than Mossbridge Troll with total power 10 or greater. +20/+20 until end of turn. So yeah, you can literally just be like, okay, Grothama, you got 10 power. Tap. All of a sudden, it's hitting for 25, whether you're swinging at an opponent or, yeah, swinging at Grothama to draw an absurd amount of cards. Again, being able to change up the dynamics of a game can be a way to spice up a game and, again, take it out of that just normal ebb and flow of a commander game and make it a bit more fun depending on your play group. So, yeah, Grothama is definitely one that could shake things up quite a bit and can be a lot of fun. And, again, can utilize cards that otherwise wouldn't see play. Utilize really cool, really exciting, off-the-wall cards and strategies. Grothama is quite fun. Next up, I'm calling this one Challenge Accepted. Kind of like Phage, let's talk about Myojin, especially Myojin Blooming Dawn. Now, there's other Myojin, too, that I was thinking about bringing up, like Seeing Winds and Cryptic Dreams, but those are a bit more, I'm not going to say combo-y, like Cryptic Dreams is, but Seeing Winds can be a bit more solitary once you get going. That being said, Myojin Blooming Dawn is one where the Myojin in and of themselves are kind of just a challenge-accepted type commander because Wizards intentionally made them not to work, really. A 4/6 spirit for 8 mana and white, not to work as a commander, I should say. Enters the battlefield with indestructible counter on it if you cast it from your hand, which, again, the whole Phage problem, I didn't do that, basically. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's not like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just going to Torpor Orb this situation like Phage. No, that's not how that, no, that doesn't apply in that way. No, this is more so, okay, I need to, like, Command Beacon it or do something else. We'll talk about those other things. Regardless, the payoff for this one, once you do get a cast from your hand, is massive. Remove an indestructible counter from it. Create a 1/1 color spirit creature token for each permanent you control. Permanent. Which means that if you can activate this once, amazing. Lots of things in play. You can activate it again. Exponential growth, doubling again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Absolutely absurd. So, being able to get a ton of mana Working on getting a ton of things into play, like Skyclave Relic. This can help a lot. Artifact for 3, kicker 3, indestructible, enters the battlefield if it was kicked. Create 2 tap tokens or copies of it. Tap at 1 mana of any color. So being able to get 3 mana rocks in play, basically 6 mana, or 6 mana in total to get this, to get 3 mana essentially. Yeah, it helps you get to that 8 mana for your commander. It also floods the board with more and more things. What's not to love about that? Light the way. Again, maybe have just, an extra mana laying around once you cast your commander the first time, because you need to get it back in your hand to get it back out. Instant for a single white mana. Yeah, you can get a counter on something. Ignore that. Return target permanent you control back to its owner's hand. Being able to, again, bounce your permanent back to your hand, bounce your commander back to your hand to recast it, and then get that payoff. It can be absolutely so rewarding once you get through this kind of, again, mini game type approach to a commander where all the other players are like, are we doing these things with these? We already have this setup. And you're like, my setup takes a while, but once it happens, look out. Metastatic Evangel. Another non-token creature bound for control. Proliferate. Yeah, Proliferate is the name of the game with this commander where, again, your goal is literally, okay, I need to ramp, get it out, back to my hand, get it back out, and proliferate to get more counters on it so I can keep activating that ability without running out of those counters. So when you do so, again, the payoff is huge. Again, going from like, okay, yeah, like 10 things in play to 20 things in play to 40 to 80 to 160, just literally just flooding the board with so many things your opponent's heads are going to spin. Myoja Blooming Dawn, again, a commander that is a challenge accepted type commander, can be a lot of fun. Next up, Unexpected is what I'm calling this one. Selenia Dark Angel, a old commander that is somewhat forgotten, and that really doesn't do anything, really. It's a 3/3, says some legend. I'm assuming it's just an angel. For 5 mana, and Orzhov, flying, counts as an angel, so yeah, it's an angel. Pay 2 life, bounce it back to its owner's hand. So literally this is just a commander where if you just see this when you first start playing Magic, you're like, that is useless. Why would I ever play with something like that? And your opponents might think that as well. It's a commander that you can build a very unexpected and unique build around, though, where it changes the dynamics of the game. Changes what your goal is. Again, the goal in Commander is to take your opponent's life totals down to nothing, essentially, and then they lose. For the most part, right? Your goal with this deck is to take your own life total down to essentially nothing. And you're like, what? Your opponent's like, why are you doing that? Yeah, literally, with this commander, you can pay 2 life again and again and again and again, because you can keep just responding to your own activation of it. So I pay 2 life, bounce back to my hand, but before it bounces back to my hand, I'm going to pay 2 life, bounce back to my hand. Before it happens, I'm going to bounce back to... You keep doing that again and again and again, basically paying 2 life until you're down to 2 or 1 life, essentially, and then that's when the real fun happens. Because you can utilize cards like, Children of Corliss. You can sacrifice this to gain life you lost this turn. So if you have any of those life gain benefits in play, like say Sanguine Bond, which again drains someone based on the amount of life that you gained, you can go, okay, I go down to 1 from, 41 life or whatever. Maybe I put in on one of those lands that gave me a life, whatever it was. Anyways, I go down to 1 from 41 life, I just lost 40 life, and all of a sudden I sacrifice my 1 mana Children of Corliss, and all of a sudden I go back to 41 life, which yes, is life gain, so I gain that life and Sanguine Bond someone down to nothing. So I can take them out in that way. Or you can utilize some life swap type cards, like Axis of Mortality. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have 2 target players exchange life totals. This one is so fun just in general, because it can be a good politic card, even if you don't have, your I'm down to no life type approach out. You can be like, that player is dominating the game. That other player is struggling a little bit. Let's swap their life totals. You're welcome. And make a friend in the way. And make an enemy in the other way. But yeah, being able to be like, okay, I'm down to 1. Because you do this like right before your turn, or go down to 2 right before your turn. And then all of a sudden it's your upkeep and you're like, okay, I swap you. And I'm back at the 40, and you're at 2. Or you can set the entire table down. Repay in kind. Sorcery for 7 mana. Each player's life total becomes the lowest life total among all players, which will be yours. So yeah, everyone goes down to 2 or 1 life. And all of a sudden, things get really interesting, and you probably have a way to win from there to set yourself up. But again, Selenia Dark Angel changes the dynamics of the game. And this can be a good way to change things up, where your objective is different than your opponents. Your opponents might be working to get your life total down, and you're like, thank you. I appreciate that. Wow, I'm at 20. How nice. Yay. All right, I only have so far to go. But yeah, being able to use a commander like this, where you're like, you know what? I'm going to take myself down all the way. All right, down to 1, and then we're going to do some fun things with some life gain or some life swapping. Or yeah, everyone just goes down. Next up, underrated and underappreciated and underutilized in this approach, Nezahal Primal Tide is one I want to bring up. It is one that is a lot of fun, and again, when it comes to a Voltron commander, you might picture a lot of other things before you picture Nezahal, but my goodness, is this one so much fun. A 7/7 Elder Dinosaur for 7 mana in blue, can't be countered, you have maximum hand size. When an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card, discard 3 cards, exile, return to the battlefield, tapped on its own control to begin next end step. So with a lot of Voltron commanders, typically they're like, okay, I get out. I've got ways to get more power, essentially, maybe, or I've got benefits if I get more power, and yeah, maybe I've got some way to protect myself, some indestructibility or some hexproof or whatnot. Nezahal is like, hey, do you want to be protected from a counterspell with your Voltron commander? Cool. Do you like keeping all your cards? Cool. Do you want to draw an absurd amount of cards? I am one of the best draw engines you will ever have in play. Cool. And hey, do you want some easy protection for your commander and makes it really hard to deal with? Yeah. Also, it's in a color that typically doesn't go Voltron, and you can do some really fun things with some really janky cards. Absolutely. This commander is so much fun in a Voltron build, and again, your opponents might just like laugh ahead of time. But yeah, they're not going to be laughing when you get this out super early because, again, you literally can just chuck like 20 to 30 mana rocks in your deck like Urgolems. I just have so many mana rocks in your deck. You're like, okay, yeah. And turn 1 Soul Ring's quite nice. But yeah, even just like turn 2, then turn 3 this, then turn 4. And you're like, oh yeah, Nezahal out. Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. Turn 4 Nezahal. All of a sudden, my giant draw engine is online, and I'm hitting for 1/3 of your life totals, essentially, when it comes to commander damage. And of course, I can speed up that process with things like Imperial Plate, or yeah, Fire Shrieker doublers too. But yeah, Imperial Plate +1 for each card in your hand, which again, no maximum hand size. Drawing cards, your opponents are casting non-creature spells that can easily take it up to at least a 2-shot KO. And of course, again, with like a Fire Trigger double, but it could be a 1-shot KO too, of course. And then flying things like Dragon Wings. I love this card. It's a janky card. Jank creature, it's an aura. Jank creature has flying, you can cycle away if you need to, and you very well might do that because you're benefited when your commander comes into play because it says, whenever a creature with converted mana cost 6 or more comes into play, you may return it from your graveyard to play, enchanting that creature. So all of a sudden, again, this comes into play, enchanting Nezahal. It's got flying, it's got evasion. Of course, you got other ways to get it through too, but yeah. This commander, again, can be incredibly unexpected where your opponents are like, oh, wow, okay, that's hilarious. You have Nezahal as your commander. Wow, ha 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 ha. Oh, it's a Voltron. What are you doing? What? How did you just take me out with 1 shot? My goodness. Yeah, you can really surprise your opponents with something like this. And again, it is super hard to deal with. Nezahal is so hard to take out once it's out there. It's quite fun. Next up, if you did not see my episode on commanders that are secretly evil, make sure you check that one out because, yeah, Feldergriff might look friendly, might seem friendly, the abilities might appear friendly, it is secretly evil. But if your friends don't know that, make some friends with it until you stab them in the back. A 4/4 Feldergriff for 4 mana in Bant. Pay a white mana, it gets flying till on turn, target opponent gains 2 life. Pay a blue mana, bounce it back to its owner's hand, target opponent may draw a card. Pay a green mana, it gets trampled till on turn, put a hippo token into player opponent's control, it's a 1/1 green creature. So basically, hey, I'm just here to help everyone out, alright? You gain some life, yeah, you're welcome, alright. Oh, I'm gonna bounce it back to my hand, here, draw a card if you want. You know what? Take a hippo. Take a hippo is what this commander is all about. You are going to be wheeling and dealing with hippos. Hippos are the new currency. You're going to be like, you know what? Hey, over there, opponent. That mean player over there, Paul, is attacking you. Sorry, Paul. And you know what? I'd like to help you out. So you know what? I'm going to give you some hippos so you can block with them if you'd like or whatever. Or you know what? Paul just attacked you last turn. How about before your turn, I give you some hippos so you can swing them at Paul? Sorry, Paul. Regardless, being able to benefit from your opponents do certain things, you can do so by granting them hippos. So keep watch. Draw a card for each tagging creature. Again, casting a card like this, I have drawn so many cards off this in my Feldergriff deck. Being able to say, you know what? Hey, again, I dished out so many hippos. Take all the hippos you want. And the next turn, swing. And that's all you have to do for me to give you all these hippos. Don't swing at me, though, okay? Anyways, they swing, and you draw an absurd amount of cards with this. So again, just a 3 mana, yeah, draw like 10+ spell. It's amazing. Frontier Siege, a card that literally is like, hey, Do you want 4 hippos in a turn? Great. I mean, not for you, but to dish them out. Enchant for 4 mana in green. Cons at the beginning of each of your main phases add green, green. Then, yeah, that's what you're going to pick with this one. But basically, again, you get 2 in your first main phase, 2 in your second main phase, and all of a sudden, again, that's 4 free hippos to dish out. Utilize them as political chips, and also utilize them as, fodder in some ways with a card like Azuri's Predation. Sorcery for 8 mana in total for each creature opponents control. Create a 4/4 green Phyrexian Beast creature token. Each one of those tokens fights a different one of those creatures. Basically, a weird fight board wipe that, might get you a decent amount of creatures in regular games, but when you are dishing out hippos in the way that you are, you're gonna be like, hey, you know what? Take all these hippos that you want. You have 20 hippos now, you're welcome. And they're like, oh, thanks, so this is great. Yeah, this is so cool that we took out the other players. Now we're going up against each other, and I've got these hippos to take you out. Ha ha ha. And you're like, yeah, sure, all right. Just want to cast this one spell, and now I've got 20 hippos, 80 power, and all your hippos are gone. And now I take you out. So again, literally, Feldergriff is one where the games are so unique and dynamic where, again, they play out differently. You're trying to look for who's going to be my friend for this one. Who can I grant some hippos to? Who can I say, you know what? I could help you out right now if you do this for me. You can wheel and deal and eventually utilize those hippos against them too. Next up, Mr. Orfeo the Boulder, one of my favorite decks of all time, actually, surprisingly. Again, I built this one, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. And it's like, I see myself grabbing for this deck a lot. It lets you use weird cards. That's one of my favorite things about a commander deck where, again, it might just be unexpectedly fun for you where you get to use cards that you'd never be able to use. Just cards that are like, okay, pretty useless in other, decks essentially. Like, not like a top commander staple, but cards that are like, yeah, that's a weird card, but it works amazingly in this one. Mr. Orpheus the Boulder is a 2/4 Rhino Warrior for 4 mana in Jund. Whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. Very simple, very effective. Just double up power. Why not? So the deck that I built around is called Hotline Fling. Make sure you check that episode out on that. But yeah, you can use Fling effects, sacrifice some giant creatures after you double their power. It's a lot of fun. Or yeah, Essence Harvest. This one's quite fun too. Sorcery for 3 mana, target player loses X life, you gain X life, Rexy, Grace, Power Moon creatures you control. Again, being like, you know what? Hey, I got this creature out in play. I swung with it. I already got some damage in. And also, by the way, I'd like to gain some life and drain you too for an absurd amount. And you can also utilize cards again that are like Beast of Burden. This card has been around forever, but literally the last time I played this card, player's like, wait, what? What in the world's that? What is that card? This card has been around forever in Magic. I remember from my childhood, but it's a card that players don't play with because it's like just a card. It's just like, yeah, okay, why would I ever play that? It's a star artifact creature for 6 mana, power types each equal to the number of creatures in play. I'm sure it's a construct. I'm not sure anyways. But anyways, it basically says, hey, you know what? I'm just a big creature that does absolutely nothing, okay? It's just dependent upon everyone having creatures in play. Cool, all right. In a commander game, typically this is going to be like, you throw this down, it's like 12 power just right away. And again, with your commander, you can double that to 24 power, or yeah, even more. This thing just keeps growing and growing and growing throughout the game. Or a really janky card like Wilderness Elemental. Literally, this was the biggest threat on the board in my last game that I played with this one. A star 3 elemental with trample for 3 mana in Gruul. Power is equal to the number of non-basic lands your opponents control. Next time you play a game of Commander, just literally like in the middle or end of the game, just like look how many non-basics are in play. An absurd amount, typically. Play more basics, everyone. Regardless, being able to be like, yeah, this thing has like, again, 12 power for 3 mana, and I've got a doubler. I've got other doublers as well. I can easily get my creature's power up to 40 most of the time and be able to fling it or be able to drain or be able to get through in combat. And again, just win in unique ways with Mr. Orpheus the Boulder because you can utilize, again, unique janky cards, unique janky creatures that otherwise wouldn't see the light of day. And you're like, yeah, this is the most threatening thing on the board. Hey, Wilderness Elemental, look out. And finally, one that I want to point out, which I call Utility Belt, that is Garth 1i. Now, I am a sucker for 5-color commanders. I most definitely am. It gives you access to all the things, so you can build whatever you want around it and build your own fun experience. Garth 1i helps you out in another way by being, again, a utility belt commander. It can help with so many things. It's a 5/5 human wizard for, again, Wooburg. Tap, choose a card name that has been chosen from among Disenchant, Braingeyser, Terror, Shivan Dragon, Regrowth, and Black Lotus. Create a copy of the chosen card. You may cast the copy. Basically, with this one, it gives you access to removal with Disenchant and Terror. It gives you access to a dragon, I guess, if you really want that with Shivan Dragon. It gives you access to great card draw with Braingeyser, and gets you access to Regrowth, a regrowth effect, bringing something back from your graveyard, in Black Lotus, which you cannot play in Commander, which is quite fun to get a little burst of mana from that, a pretty big burst of mana. But again, it's a utility belt commander that can help you out in so many different ways, and being able to utilize it, again, with whatever approach you're looking for. Mine is actually focused on, like, untapping and untapping lands specifically that are enchanted with auras to generate an absurd amount of mana, which is a lot of fun. I love that deck, one of my favorite decks of all time. That being said, again, you can build around this in a lot of different ways, and of course, yes, take advantage of those untap effects if you want to. Hero's Follower, untap Garth so you can utilize it again, untap target permanent. Another target permanent, I should say, but yeah, being able to untap Garth to utilize multiple things in the same turn, in the same trip around the table. Or how about Rising of the Day? Creatures control of haste, legendary creature control at +1/+0. That pump is nice, but more importantly, again, granting haste lets it so that when you cast Garth, you can actually utilize that aspect right away. You can utilize that ability right away. Or Soul Herder, hey, reset things. Conjurer's Closet as well for a more expensive version. 1/1 Spirit for 3 mana Azorius. And I mean, it gets larger, but don't worry about that. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile another target creature controller, return to the battlefield under its own control. So again, with Garth coming back into play, that resets Garth, so you can utilize all those different card names again. So again, utilizing a utility belt type commander to go in whatever direction you want can be a lot of fun when it comes to the deck building process. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.